I want you to stop for a moment and think about your life. The moments that define us are not always the ones we planned for. Sometimes the moments that change us come wrapped in words or words spoken in the right season, words that pierce the heart, words that carry wisdom. And today, I want to talk to you about the advice that changed everything. There was a time when I thought I had to figure everything out on my own. I carried burdens I wasn't meant to carry. I walked roads that seemed endless, weighed down by doubt, fear, and uncertainty. I thought success was a matter of strategy, that breakthrough came only from hard work, hustle, and sacrifice. But then I heard advice so simple, so profound, that it shook me to my core. Trust the process even when you don't understand it. At first, those words sounded easy. Trust the process, but trust is not passive. Trust is not doing nothing. Trust is living in faith while walking through the fire. Trust is believing that every setback, every delay, every closed door is not the end, but the preparation for what's next. And when I embraced that advice, everything changed. My vision became clearer. My steps became steadier. My fear began to shrink, and my faith began to rise. You see, the advice that changes everything is never complicated. It is often something you already know but are too afraid to act upon. It's the call to step forward when everyone else is stepping back. It's the reminder that failure is not fatal and that your past does not define your future. It's the wisdom to stop trying to force doors open and start knocking on right ones at the right time. And let me tell you something. When you begin to follow the advice that changes everything, you will notice a shift. Opportunities will appear in places you never expected. People who are meant to walk with you will come into your life. Obstacles will begin to teach you lessons instead of just causing pain. The storms you once feared will become the very grounds on which your faith grows strong. So, hear me today. Don't ignore the advice that tugs at your heart. Don't dismiss the words that make you uncomfortable because growth is uncomfortable. Don't wait for the world to understand your journey before you take the step that your spirit knows is right. That advice, the advice that changed everything for me, was the courage to believe that God, life, destiny, the universe, whatever you call it, has a plan for you that is bigger than your doubts and fears. And the moment you make the choice to live by that advice, to act even when it doesn't make sense, to keep moving even when the path is unclear, that is the moment your life begins to transform. That is the moment everything you once thought impossible begins to feel possible. That is the moment the advice that changes everything truly begins to work. I want you to take a moment and reflect on your life, the journey you've walked, the roads that seemed impossible, and the mountains you thought you could never climb. Life has a way of testing us, stretching us, and sometimes breaking us. But there comes a time when a single word, a single piece of advice can shift everything. There was a moment in my life when I thought I had to carry every burden alone, when I believed that success was measured by how much I could endure, how hard I could push, and how many battles I could fight. On my own, I was exhausted, I was weary, I was drowning in my own expectations, and then someone spoke words that stopped me in my tracks, words that were so simple yet so profound. Trust the process, even when you don't understand it. Those words did not make life easier, but they made life clearer. They did not remove the mountains, the storms, or the obstacles, but they gave me a way to walk through them with purpose, with faith, with hope. Trusting the process is not passive. It is active, intentional, and courageous. It is believing in the unseen, walking by faith, and moving forward even when the path is unclear. It is choosing to see setbacks not as failures, but as lessons, as stepping stones, as the preparation you need for the blessing that is coming. Every delay, every closed door, every disappointment has a hidden purpose, and the advice that changes everything is knowing that those moments are shaping you, molding you, and preparing you for a destiny that is greater than anything you can imagine. You see, wisdom is not always complicated. It is often simple, wrapped in words you already know, but words you are too afraid to obey. It is telling you to rise when you feel like giving up, to speak when you feel silenced, to move when you feel stuck, and to believe when everything around you screams doubt. When you begin to follow that advice, you will notice a transformation. Opportunities will appear in ways you never expected. The people meant to align with your journey will show up at the right time. Challenges will begin to teach rather than torment, and storms will become the very place where your faith grows strong. The advice that changes everything calls you to step out, even when it doesn't make sense, even when fear whispers in your ear, even when the world tells you to stop. It reminds you that your past does not define your future, that your mistakes are not the measure of your life, and that every delay is a setup for a comeback. When you take that advice seriously, when you let it guide your actions and decisions, you begin to see doors open that were once sealed, paths appear that were once invisible, and blessings flow that were once unimaginable. The courage to trust, the willingness to wait, and the faith to move forward in uncertainty is the essence of the advice that changes everything. And it is in that obedience, in that faith-filled action, that your life begins to align with the destiny you were created for. There comes a moment in everyone's life when you realize that everything you thought you knew, everything you thought you understood, is only a fraction of the truth. You realize that success, peace, and fulfillment are not found in rushing, in forcing, in pushing against every circumstance, but in listening, in pausing, and in receiving wisdom at the right time. I remember standing at a crossroads, burdened by decisions that seemed too heavy to bear, overwhelmed by expectations, pressures, and the noise of the world telling me I had to have it all figured out. And then someone shared a piece of advice so powerful, so simple, yet so life-altering. Focus on what you can control and trust the rest. At first, it sounded ordinary, but the truth in those words struck me with the force of revelation. Life is not about controlling every outcome, about micromanaging every situation, about forcing the doors to open before the timing is right. Life is about aligning your heart, mind, and actions with purpose and leaving the results to unfold according to divine timing, natural order, or the wisdom of the universe. When you embrace that advice, a shift happens. Your anxiety begins to fade, your energy is redirected, and you begin to see challenges not as obstacles, but as guides. You begin to see delays as preparation, failures as feedback, and detours as redirection. The advice that changes everything is often disguised as simplicity. It is telling you to let go of the need to control, to surrender the fear, to step out of the chaos of doubt and into the calm of faith. It is telling you to act boldly within the circle of your influence, and to trust that the rest, the things beyond your hands and mind, will work out in ways you cannot yet see. When you start living by that wisdom, you notice a new rhythm in your life. The noise begins to quiet, the fog lifts, and clarity appears where confusion once ruled. People who were once distractions become allies. Obstacles that seemed immovable now become stepping stones. Your vision becomes sharper, your decisions become more precise, and your faith grows stronger because it is exercised in the unseen and tested in the moment you feel least prepared. The advice that changes everything is not just about success. It is about transformation. It is about becoming a person who can endure, who can persevere, who can see opportunity in adversity and victory in delay. It is about embracing patience, courage, and wisdom as your closest companions. The moment you begin to live According to this advice, you will feel a shift deep within your spirit. You will begin to notice doors opening at the right time, connections appearing that you never expected, and a sense of peace that surpasses understanding guiding every step. It is in trusting the process, in focusing on what you can control, in surrendering what you cannot, that life begins to unfold in ways that are extraordinary, that paths appear that were once hidden, and that the advice that changes everything begins to transform not only your circumstances, but the very essence of who you are. There are moments in life when you feel like everything is falling apart, when the weight of your circumstances is heavier than your strength, when the doors you hoped would open remain tightly closed. It is in those moments that the right advice, spoken at the right time, can change the trajectory of your entire life. I remember a time when I was exhausted, overwhelmed, and questioning every decision I had made. I was chasing success, approval, and validation, thinking that the world's standard would measure my worth. And then someone said words that struck deep into my spirit, words that reshaped my perspective and redirected my path. Start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can. At first, I thought it was too simple. I thought I needed more resources, more education, more opportunities. I thought I had to wait for the perfect moment, the perfect plan, the perfect alignment of circumstances, but the truth in that advice was undeniable. The change I sought, the breakthrough I desired, the destiny that was waiting for me did not require perfection. It required action, faith, and persistence. Starting where you are does not mean settling. It means recognizing the power in this moment, the strength in your current resources, and the potential in your present actions. Using what you have does not mean scarcity. It means leveraging your gifts, talents, and experiences to create momentum. Doing what you can does not mean limitation. It means commitment to progress, no matter how small, no matter how incremental, no matter how uncertain. When I embraced that advice, my perspective shifted. I began to see opportunities where I had seen walls, possibilities where I had seen dead ends, and strength where I had felt weakness. The advice that changes everything reminds us that waiting for permission, for approval, or for perfection is often the greatest form of delay. It is in the small, faithful steps, taken consistently, that life begins to transform. It is in the courage to act in the face of fear, to move in the midst of doubt, and to persist despite setbacks that the seeds of destiny take root. When you start with what you have, you discover resources you never knew existed. When you do what you can, you develop resilience that will carry you through storms you cannot yet imagine. When you embrace action over hesitation, faith over fear, and perseverance over procrastination, the doors begin to open, the path becomes visible, and the breakthroughs arrive in ways that are often surprising and extraordinary. The advice that changes everything is not about luck, timing, or perfect conditions. It is about alignment, determination, and belief. It is about knowing that your journey, your struggle, and your effort are all part of a greater plan. A plan that is unfolding with precision even when the world seems chaotic. The power of that advice lies in its simplicity, in its clarity, and in its ability to shift your mindset from limitation to possibility, from waiting to action, from doubt to faith, and from fear to courage. And it is in embracing it, in living it, and in acting upon it that life begins to move toward the destiny you were always meant to fulfill.